So welcome to a review on the new PING G430 woods. Now this video is specifically going to focus on the driver fairways and hybrids, and we'll do a separate one on the 430 iron. So what I'm going to run through first is what are the main changes, particularly we'll start with the driver. What are the main changes across each model, and then I'll go into which ones the specifics are for. So PING have always been great for consistency. They're an engineering-based company. They're always doing things for a physical reason. Not that other companies don't, but PING have always stuck to those philosophies rather than marketing gains. So the key things they've changed from a very successful 425 series into the 430. The main thing across all the models, they've got a slightly thinner face, saved about 6% of the face thickness. Now, any of these savings on face thickness, on crown weight, are all weight saving to reposition weight within the head as efficiently as possible. So any gains they can make can help them orient as much weight in certain places in the head to optimize launch angle, spin, forgiveness. So 6% thinner on the face. They're using a forged variable face thickness face. So the VFT tech that's been used, you've heard that with other models and other brands in the past. What that does is it puts thinner and thicker elements various places in the face to optimize ball speed on certain strike points. So it's not a one thickness face. There are waves of thick and thin throughout, generally with a sort of a circular shape historically in the center of the face, but particularly focusing on some of the other models in the fairway woods, and particularly focusing on the toe side, so that getting a little bit more flexion. The thinner you go on the face, the more movement, the more flex, more kick, getting a little bit more ball speed. So that's really been the key focuses for the face side of it has been on that, certainly from a thickness and a ball speed element. Again, any other ways they can take weight out and optimize performance in certain areas all goes into other parts of the head as well. So within that, one of the things that PING have done with various models in the past is that coined a phrase spin-sistency. So what does that mean? Well, really it's where the face wraps all the way around, but it has a curvature to it. So they're not exactly flat. There is some bulge and roll to it. Now that's to optimize ball flight and spin on off-center strikes. So rather than it being a consistent roll, what they've done this year around into driver and the fairways and the hybrids is make it a slightly uniform shape. So there's a little bit less bulge and roll on the top to stop the ball popping up too much, keeping the spin down, keeping the ball speed on. But what they've done is they've made a slightly more aggressive roll on the bottom half of the face, so tightened up that roll. What that does is it means it de-lofts a little bit more quickly. So that keeps launch down, spin down, but critically also maintains a little bit of ball speed. So really trying to kind of fine tune and dial in on optimizing ball speed all the way across the face. So that's something they've done across every single model. So then going into the specifics of what have changed into each of the three iterations, they've still got LS Tech, Max and SF Tech. So LST, SFT. So with the SFT, the straight flight tech, what's changed is where there was one weight in the back. In this position, there are now two. So you can move that weight around to optimize where that position of CG is, how much drawbar you're going to get, and just makes it a little bit more versatile. Rather than just having the one setting, it allows you to tune it in. Internally, there is already a little bit of extra weight into the heel side, so it's already preset a little bit more drawbars than the Max series, but this allows you to optimize it a little bit more and dial it in a little bit more. So that's the main change from that on the SFT. The Max the Max stays pretty much as the Max always was. Still got the movable weight in the back. The hosel system stayed exactly the same across all the models, so that's interchangeable with the same as the 410 was, the same as the 425. The Max has got less change than the others. Those changes that we talked about from the face thick and thin, and that bit of weight saving. That's all they've really done on the Max. There wasn't an awful lot to change. It's more been the two heads either side. So the Max has got the small changes to it. There's one other across the board which I'll come on to shortly as well. So I'll focus on those two first. The other change across the board is what they've done is about sound. So the 425 series was quite a loud head. It had a bit of harshness to it, and this is something that the lighter and the thinner you go on the walls, you're going to amplify some of the sound. So what PING have done is they've got some internal frames, the internal ribbing in the sole of the head, which the position and the angles are designed to absorb some of the vibration. So the axis that it's on influences the vibration, and the frequency of that vibration comes at, and that's where the pitch of note comes in. So in the 425, it's quite a high pitch, harsh sound. So what they've done with that internal ribbing, also the stiffness of the crown and the frame, that helps to reduce some of that vibration, some of that sound, which I'll demonstrate now. So I'm going to hit the 425 first. And what we'll see from this is that pitch of note, that harshness of sound is quite noticeable. So from a sound point of view, it's a hard note. And that's something that probably one of the only criticisms of the 425 over the past year or two is that the sound and the acoustics are quite harsh. So when I go into it's exactly the same shaft in each of the heads, so it's only the head on the bottom that's influencing this. We will notice a bit of a different note. So it's a noticeably quieter, less harsh, this PING more agreeable sound. So, and that's one of the aspects that did turn people off a little bit. It doesn't affect the performance one iota. It's purely an acoustic and a feel element to it. So that's a really noticeable change from that. And so that goes across the board. Those ribs go across the board on the drivers. So the final bit of the driver range to look at is the LST. So the LST low spin, historically not the most forgiving head in the world, but pretty efficient from a low spin point of view. Fairly major change on this head. What we've got is carbon fly wrap. So if I get closer in, there's a little bit of a different pattern on the top of this. If I look at that relative to one of the other heads, what has gone in is this carbon crown. So it's not just a carbon deposit sort of welded into the top. It wraps all the way around into the toe and the heel. So that whole carbon crown wraps across and into the heel and toe and into the skirt. So what that does, again, it's weight saving. In the driver, it's a 4 gram saving. Now, because it's a light titanium crown previously, there's not an awful lot of saving to be done there, but 4 grams is still worth something. It's an 8-layer carbon weave, so it's really about getting strength and reducing weight. All driver designers are looking to do that, because that allows the rigidity of the frame, helps lose some deformation at strike, and that retains ball speed, spin, and flight consistency. So any weight saving without reducing rigidity is a great thing to have. But again, that'll only help the acoustics as well. A bit of composite in the crown always dampens that vibration down. One of the other elements to it is, again, allows them to lower the centre of gravity, to move that CG around because of the weight saving here. So making the centre of gravity a little bit lower just helps with the weight a little bit, helps with the spin slightly. So whilst, I guess, constructually, it's quite a dramatic change, it's quite a big shift. You could argue it's small gains, but really in drivers, that's kind of now all, relatively speaking, all we've got left. They ride on the limit from a ball speed, from a forgiveness point of view, that it's just incredibly difficult to find tangible, really kind of major gains. However, from a construction point of view, it's a big step towards it with the LST driver. So in terms of what do we see performance-wise, we'll transfer over to the TrackMan. We've got the SFT and the Max on screen at the moment. So one of the things, by going lighter in the face, moving the CG, if we look at the top two, which are the SFT, what we can see is spin almost identical, 2,950 odd revs between each club. But the SFT 430 launches higher. So ball speed efficiency, very similar, but what we've got is a more efficient spin relative to launch angle. So whilst the spin's the same, it's launched 1.5 degrees higher on that batch of shots for me. So the spin relative to launch angle is lower. So actually slightly more efficient from a flight point of view. Moving down to the bottom half of the screen, got the Max series, a little bit more launch. Sorry, a little bit more spin on that set of shots for me with the Max. Now the Max is on the 430s on the bottom of those two runs. There's the least difference of any of the three heads on this one. However, what we can see, the swing speed's slightly higher, but the smash is a little bit higher. So what I noticed on that batch of hits was just a slightly more consistent ball speed across the board on all of those shots for me. So very, very marginal. I'd say for me in particular, with those swings, slightly more spin, but that doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to see that. That's just for my batch of shots there. So really ball speed consistency being the one thing that I noticed there. That's really something that everyone can gain from. And then if we look to the LST, I'll move the screen down here, so we'll put those at the top part of the screen. So with the LST, ball speed proportionally quite similar, but a little bit lower spin. So spin down by 350 revs, marginally lower launch, marginally. So let's say kind of 250 odd revs difference when we normalise the launch angle and make those the same. So a little bit of a stronger flight out of it. And really, again, by going to the composite crown, lowering the CG, that's really what they were aiming for from a design point of view. So driver-wise, some construction changes, a little bit of tech change, particularly with the LST in the crown. And I think certainly what we're likely to see, notable with the Max, was that little bit more ball speed consistency. That was probably the one criticism, particularly on the LST, was it wasn't the most forgiving head in the world. And I think this time round we're likely to see a bit more ball speed consistency, a little bit more ball flight consistency across the board as well. So that's the drivers. So one of the other things this year that Ping have added into the 430 series is the HL option, high launch option. So what that really is, the heads stay the same. There's no change to the heads other than they're very slightly lighter weight in the back. This is really all about weight saving. So the target audience is the 85 miles an hour and under clubhead speed, driver speed that is. So what is the change? Well, a lot of the changes in the shaft. So the standard Alta CB shaft, 55 gram, they're doing what they call an Alta Fast, Alta Quick, which is down at 35 and 45 grams. So there's a 10 to 20 gram saving in the shaft. There's also a lighter grip. So gone from a standard sort of 52, 53 gram grip to a 41 gram grip. So there's 20 to 30 grams worth of saving from the shaft and the grip alone, and then another few grams from the head. So this is all about speed. By going lighter, by getting a lower kick point shaft, a softer shaft, lighter weight is easier to get the club through, generate as much speed as possible, but also help to get a little bit more height where you can get that club recovered and through a little bit more easily. So what that really means is you do lose, by losing a bit of the back weight, you lose a little bit of forgiveness. But this is something Ping are conscious of and have said, really, if ball speed is the more important thing, then this is the way to go. So it's purely a speed-oriented thing, and it's available in the Max and the SFT drivers, obviously not the LST, because that would go contrary to what that's designed for. You're not going to be using the LST driver for someone who's not generating a lot of speed because you want that launch and flight. But it goes into the Max and SST driver. The fairway woods and the hybrids have a kind of an HL option as well in the shaft weight, that lighter shaft weight, and also into the iron. So it is something that they're conscious of across the whole range, just not in the LST driver. So all about low speeds, lightweight, trying to generate more speed, more height, more carry distance. We'll move into fairway woods and hybrids now. So with these clubs, again, there's a similar kind of thing with the LST. The fairway woods have got, if I get the angle right up here, you can see the composite, the carbon fly wrap on the crown there as well. So there's actually more to be gained from this on the fairway woods and the hybrids than there was the driver. The driver crown was already very, very light, being a thin titanium. The hybrid heads are steel, so actually the hybrid head is reducing weight by 8 grams, even though it's a very small, if I get the head, even though it's a very small, much smaller kind of proportionate size. Similar to the drivers, the fairway and the hybrid all wrap into the frame. So it's a complete kind of wrap toe over and into the heel, exactly as with the driver. So 8 grams saving with the hybrid, 10 grams on the fairway wood. So actually, proportionally, that's quite a lot relative to the amount of material that's been changed. So again, with all of these heads, they're looking at lowering the centre of gravity. What that does, particularly with the clubs that are designed to be hit off the ground, is it's purely really for ball speed. So the lower you can get the centre of gravity, the more in line with the ball it is, the more efficiently it can collect the ball and maintain ball speed. Most of us will hit a fairway with a hybrid low on the face, so it's important to optimise performance off that bottom half of the face. So that's really where any weight saving in the crown, they can shift the centre of gravity lower, just helps collect the ball more efficiently and keep as consistent a ball speed as possible. Part of it also is about keeping the spin down as well. So particularly on the SFT version of the fairway wood, again, getting that centre of gravity lower, they've actually moved it forward very slightly. So normally people say centre of gravity back, more forgiveness. Ping have taken the view this year of a balance between a head that's already very, very forgiving, but one thing that was holding it back a little bit was the spin was a touch on the higher side. So it was good for reducing the left-right shot shape, but got a little bit spinny. So they've actually moved the centre of gravity lower and a bit further forward to try and keep that spin down and optimise distance as well. So that's particularly on the SFT head. Again, with the composite crown, that also helps with the acoustics a little less harsh note, exactly like the driver, a bit of a quieter noise. Just generally something that the feedback over the period is that players would prefer a slightly softer sounding club. So certainly achieved that with the composite crown. Both heads have that adaptation on the spin consistency, so particularly in the fairway and the hybrids, they've worked on the variable face thickness on the toe side. Now this is really to optimise ball speed out the centre, so by optimising that face thickness out the toe, you're optimising the flexion of the face, so that also has effects all the way across the face. So yeah, that's an area where both in ball speed consistency, ball flight consistency has been a key element of the design on these two heads as well. So really, fairway and hybrid aren't visually are fairly, relatively similar. If I get a comparable head, there aren't big differences between the two heads. The depth of the heads is pretty similar. I think the base footprint's a little bit neater now. Whether it's just the visuals, those little lines, just the way that the visual dynamics on the top just make it look a little bit more compact. I think that'll suit quite a lot of players' eyes, particularly on the SFT. That is a neater shape. Again, it's relatively small adaptations on things that they've done before. You've still got the face wrap, so rather than marrying a thinner material into the face, with Ping they've got it wraps all the way around from top to face to sole. That allows a little bit more flexion. You're not having to deal with a weld, you're not having to deal with another join, so you can increase the strength but keep the flexion on there. That's something they've done before. So really, again, ball speed, consistency of flight, and certainly noticed a little bit of a change. I think by going on the fairways, we'll go back to the data here. On the fairways in particular, I'll find that best mark on the screen. You're looking at the top two. So ball speed efficiency, very similar. The ball speed on the 425s is very good. But what we can see, again, spins up slightly. However, the launch angle is up 3/4 of a degree for me with the 430. So that's quite a significant change. I mean, you're looking at 7 or 8% more launch angle, which is a good thing from a carry point of view. We're always, what we're seeing more and more nowadays is that players struggle to get the ball flighted. Ping have traditionally had slightly stronger lofts, 14.5 on the 3-wood, 17.5 on the 5-wood. Now we're up half a degree, so looking at 15 and 18, so that's going to help. But that lighter crown and lower CG definitely augments that launch angle a little bit more proportionately. So anyone who's always liked the Ping heads but found them a little low launching in the past, these are definitely going to help with the ball flight getting up a little bit more. So essentially retain the carry distance, but what we've done with that data there, as you can see on the screen, it's exactly the same, well, half a yard more carry, but it's coming in from a higher height because of the higher launch angle and marginally higher spin. So there's just a little bit more efficiency and control when the ball lands, which is great. And that's really something in fairway woods that we'd be looking to, as having a good change, is getting that flight up without the spin creeping up. So again, going down and looking at the hybrids. I guess a little bit less of a difference here. It's a smaller head, so not going to be able to change that launch spin quite as much. On that batch of hits for me, you can see actually launch angle on the 430 for me on that batch of swings is slightly lower. However, the spin is a little bit higher. Now, from a raw distance point of view, Ping will be always looking at trying to keep spin down for flight efficiency and distance, but actually from a fitter's point of view, I'm quite happy seeing that spin at very least maintain or actually go up a little bit. The 425 is quite a low spin head, so if we see that result come out continuously in testing, we'll actually be able to fit it into more players because again, in this bit of the bag, we're either using it to replace a long iron where we want the flight, we want the carry, we want the control when it lands, or we're looking for it to be easy to get airborne, and spin helps with that a little bit and keep it in the air. So actually, if that's a result that we see throughout testing moving forward, then we'll actually all be very happy because there's we're inundated with low spin bombers of hybrids, and actually, so if we can get a head that retains that little bit more spin, that'd be great. So as I said, the hosel system stays exactly the same as the previous models, the 425. The settings are all the same. You've got two settings higher, two settings lower, and then the lower goes into the flatter setting as well. So that retains. But across the board, I think there's marginal gains across the board. Certainly we're seeing there's a positive change in performance, albeit small in some areas. There's a positive change across each head, but I think particularly with the Fairwood and that higher launch, we're going to find that a bit more versatile. So certainly now we should have those in the studio next week. I believe it's around the 11th of January. We'll confirm as soon as we have those in. But I hope you've enjoyed this review. We'll follow on. We'll do another one, another shorter video on the new iron. There's a little bit of different tech into that. But please check out any of our other videos and any other content, reviews in the studio on our YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, hit the bell icon, and we'll hopefully see you again soon.